I believe we have, I'll call the roll. Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Ms.
Sure.
Faith?
I'm here.
Ms. Britt? I did not see her, so I don't think we have her yet. And Ms. Barnes? Mrs. Johnson?
Yes,
So we have 3 members here. We do have a quorum if you would like to go forward.
it's 9:30. I'd like to call a meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals to order on this Monday, August 31st, 2020. Please read the preamble.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I'm going to read the preamble this morning. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declaration, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conduct its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We already had a roll call, but we have to put it on the record. Is that right, Mrs. Kukla?
Right, Madam Chair. We do have you, Mrs. Johnson, we have Mr. Donovan and Ms. Faith. Do we have any other board members that have logged in yet?
Yes, I'm Kelly. I'm here.
Okay, great.
Marlene is here, Ms. Barnes.
Okay.
And Ms. Barnes. All right, we have all 5 members, Madam Chair.
Yippee skippy doo. We're going to announce the calendar 19-301 is being postponed till October 5th. We did that at a previous meeting. But for anybody who's online who was in for this particular case, see you on October 5th. And we're going to go skip the original agenda and go to calendar 20-116 at 1424. Yes?
Madam Chair, you missed the other postponement at the bottom of that page.
Oh, duh. Calendar 20-120 at 3125 West 14th. Request for a postponement. I don't have any reasoning or anything on it.
Madam Chair, Councilman Brancatelli emailed
Yes.
us this morning requesting a postponement. He is requesting that the appellant meet with the Development Corporation to go over the project.
Do we have a date?
Yes, we could do September 28th. All other hearing dates are filled.
Okay. Without objection, board on September 28th. Yay for Carol Johnson.
Kelly, without objection.
Alana, without objection. Ms. Barnes, without objection.
Tim Donovan without objection.
Okay, great.
Madam Chair, Mr. D. Rivera, so your case has been postponed. You will not need to stay on the call. You're muted, sir. We can't hear you. Still muted. Oh, here, I can unmute you. Yes, sir?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. This is Franklin D. Rivera. I want to know why I'm being postponed.
Ms. Kukla?
Councilman Brancatelli contacted us requesting the postponement. He stated that he would like for you to review your case with the Development Corporation. So I can email you that email from the councilman after our meeting this morning so that you can reach out. I believe that the CDC director is also copied on that email. So I will forward you that email right after our meeting this morning.
Development Corporation.
Are we talking about Tremont West Development Corporation?
I'm not sure which is the Development Corporation
Yes,
there.
I believe that would be Tremont West.
So I have to meet with them first?
Yes, and reach out to Councilman Brincatelli, which I will give you his information after the meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a blessed day.
Yep.
Okay. That's the end of that. Are we going to 20-116?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm getting a lot of feedback from something.
If you're not speaking, please mute your microphone.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Faith. Ms. Faith is muted.
Oh, you're muted, Ms. Faith. I'll unmute you.
Sorry. Six.
126th Street.
122
for East Purchase LLC. Purchase for 3-year-old extension and change of use to a community center.
6 semi-district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda.
No, Ms. Faith, something happened with you. There's now two of you. You're both muted.
You have to sign out and sign back in. Okay?
Man, I couldn't. It's good thing I got a copy in front of me.
If you're not speaking, please leave your microphone muted. If I mute your microphone, please leave it muted. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready? We heard the case. History of the property, please, Mrs. Kukla.
I gotta swear people in.
Minister, would you
Oh,
like me to read? Would you like me
Yeah,
to read that case in again?
Well, I have it in front of me, so I'm reading it myself, so I don't need it. But does the record need it? Does Joy need it?
The description is on the board as well, or on the screen
Okay.
as well. So,
Okay. No,
yeah.
I think we're fine. Thanks, Liz. Yes, I'm sorry, Tim. I forgot all about you. Go ahead.
Will everyone for this case, please raise your right hand. I'm gonna say a statement. And what I'm looking for is a reply. I do. And then your name. And then your name. Yeah, that sounds better. Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Debo Elias.
Nicole Calhoun.
Is that all?
That appears that anybody from the public.
We had an Amy Carrion signed up as well as a neighbor.
She's unmuted. I mean, she's muted, rather. Debo, you can put your hand down. Thank you.
Property. I'm not for this property.
Are you getting any feedback? I'm getting, I'm hearing it over and over.
So am I. I don't.
But I'm not for this property.
Oh.
Lori, do you know what the problem is? You can't conduct a meeting like this.
Can we clear
See
that
who
up?
is causing the problem. Miss English, thank you for your advice, but please refrain from typing technical advice into the window. We'll take care of it. Thank you.
And this is not her case anyway, is that my understanding? On East 25th?
Okay, we seem to have eliminated the problem for the moment.
Okay, great. Okay, Liz, now the history. We have everybody signed in, or sworn in? Okay, well, let's move right along to the history. Mrs. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In the records room, I found a permit was issued in 1965 to remodel an office on the second floor. I didn't find any more permits for that particular address on East 25th Street. I did find that there was also addresses for this project area on East 24th Street, 1415 and 1417. In 1974, there were single-family homes demolished at both of those addresses. There are no variances on file and nothing of note in the more recent history.
Okay, thank you very much. Yielding to the Law Department, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting an area variance from the accessory building setback requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Is the owner of 1424 East 25th online?
I am.
Okay, please state your name for the record again.
Debo Elias.
All right, tell us exactly what you'd like to do, Debo.
So we are aiming to open a community center. So the building, as it was stated already, was semi-industrial. It's a wide open space on the inside of the building. And one of the things that we had acquired the building to do back in February of 2019 has been changed. So we want to change this to a community center. From my understanding, there were a few different issues with our original submission shown on the screen here, which we've, I believe, mitigated every single one of them. So hoping that we can change this zoning to a community center.
What case is this gentleman testifying on?
East 25th Street. Right?
Right.
Yep.
I think that the change.
Okay, I didn't notice that we skipped over the agenda.
We didn't,
I
we just,
apologize.
okay. So that is not the right standard, is that what you're saying?
A new request.
Oh, let's see. No, it's the right standard. It's just different variances were required for off-street parking and landscaping.
Okay.
And what about Mr. Riccardi on the phone anywhere?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Riccardi, does this require a resubmission and a reexamination for necessary variances?
Madam Chair, this is Liz Kukla. Mr. Riccardi may not be aware that there was an email that was exchanged with City Planning on Friday, I believe, and the appellant expanded on his community center activities and stated that he would like to hold weddings and such that would include live entertainment. So the live entertainment is not listed in this write-up here. It's only listed as a parking variance. So we really need to repost this. I was hoping that the appellant would expand more on the use, just to, I guess, confirm or follow up on that email that the City Planning received last week, that this is more than just a community center. This is more like a reception hall.
So we could like to postpone this.
Madam Chair, I think we should hear from the applicant.
Yes.
Yeah, I think to your point, Liz, last week we had discussed this. The question was if we will be hosting things like weddings and live events. I think the goal here is not, we're not necessarily aiming to host live events. We mentioned that if that's something that comes up, we could do the weddings, we could do the, things like a DJ for specific events, depending on the type of event. Or community event that's happening. I didn't think that would necessarily change the use here, but that's, ultimately, I think those things can happen, but that's not necessarily the goal of, the types of events and space that we want to have here.
Well, if you're going to have a wedding, they're going to have music, and especially in the Greek community, you know that. So let's postpone this case so that we can re-advertise it with what we're talking about. Is that correct, Mrs. Kukla?
Yes, I guess I'm a little concerned that the appellant doesn't seem to, if the appellant is all right with us, or is stating that he's going to do the live entertainment or wants to do that at some point, it would be best for us to post this correctly so that in the future, if you do have that opportunity or need to rent it out to a wedding, then you will already have that live entertainment in your certificate of occupancy. So, if the appellant is saying that that's a phase 2 and that he's going to apply for it later, that's something different. I guess it's up to the appellant. I mean, does the appellant want to have that ability to hold these weddings, or does he just want to do a community center right now with no weddings and anything that's going to have a DJ or any sort of live music? I guess we need to hear that from the appellant.
Excuse me, this is Lori Wagner. I think we need the appellant to explain what type of activities he intends to have, whether it includes weddings or not, because the common definition of a community center is different than an event center or special event center, and may affect the amount of parking they need.
Do you understand, Liz?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you understand what the attorney just
said? Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, and I think when we had sent back the email to Maurice, I think it was on Thursday, we had mentioned that, again, the goal here is to have, whether it's business meetings, family gatherings, community events, nonprofit events. The question I think that was posed was whether or not we could have weddings. And I think that is a possibility based on the size of the building. However, I don't think that's the direct focus of what we're trying to do at the moment, but, yes, it is a possibility.
Okay, well, it has to be that correct then, Mrs. Kukla? We have to re-advertise.
So yeah, I think we should. I think
to protect the owner. You don't want the police swarming in, closing you down. Okay.
And you're in a semi-industry district, so the use I don't believe is going to be an issue. It's likely that you may have a larger parking count. Again, I'm not saying that that's the only issue, because that we have to wait for the building and housing determination. But I don't believe that semi-industry restricts the use of live entertainment. So I don't see a whole lot of extra added, but we need to make sure that this is posted correctly to the neighbors and publicly, so that they know exactly what's happening. Oh, and September 28th would be the new date, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Board, without objection? Carol? Okay.
Ms. Barnes, without objection.
Yeah, without objection.
Tim Donovan, without objection.
Carol Johnson?
Alana Faith, without objection.
And Carol Johnson, no objection. Okay.
Whatever.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, donation.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You're going to have a room.
Alana, go right ahead.
Do you have
Thank you, Madam Chair.
On
Calendar number 20-110 at 3604
Who's
Cheyenne
talking
Avenue.
into their mic?
She don't care, but I want to know with you guys, would it be a problem? Because
That's Ms. Barnes. She didn't Mute her
Yeah,
microphone.
Ms. Barnes needs to be muted, it sounds like. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll continue. Calendar number 20-110 at 3604 Siam Avenue. The Barkna Property Group LLC owner proposes to erect a 16-foot by 20-foot, one-story framed detached gable garage. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinance as stated in the agenda in public record.
Thank you very much, Ms. Faith. Mr. Donovan?
Everyone for this case? Kindly read. Who is that?
Here, Diane Bijay.
Okay, hold on, Diane. Everyone, wait till I'm done. Everyone for this case, kindly raise your right hand. I'm going to read a statement. At the end of that statement, I'm looking for an affirmation with the words "I do" from you, if you're going to testify, and your name. So here we go. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, Diane Bijay.
Okay, Diane.
Anyone else? Nobody from planning?
Okay, the history of the property, please, Mrs. Kugler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. I didn't find any records on this address in the records room. There are no variances on file. But in the Acela system, in the more recent history, I found that in 2016, a permit was issued to demolish a 2.5-story dwelling to correct violations. And in 2017, there was a change of use of the remaining building from a 2-family dwelling to a single family. There were also interior alterations in 2018 to remove and remodel the interior of said building. And also in 2018, a permit was issued to install 3 bathrooms with tubs and sinks. And that's all that I have, Madam Chair. That's relevant.
Thank you very much. Yielding to the Law Department, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting area variance from the accessory building setback requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Is the owner of the Barkna property her?
No,
Is that Diane? Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. And
Okay.
this certified letter has been sent to Elizabeth. I was hoping she'd have it by now, but I have a certified letter signed by the homeowner that I may speak on his behalf.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Go right ahead.
This is a really, really hard lot to build a garage on. First, as you can see from the construction that they've had up to this point, not only have they put a lot of money into this, but I mean, the family is large enough that they needed 3 bathrooms. So putting anything smaller on this lot, they're still only going to be able to park 1 car in a garage. If you notice from the picture that we're looking at right now, you'll see an old pad that's sitting there. We're really planning to use that same location. It gives us 3 feet on either side, which would eliminate the code to put up firewalls, but we're more than willing to do that if the board thinks that that would substantiate putting a garage of this size in place. But he would only be able to fit 1 car in it. The rest of the space would be used for whatever storage that they could possibly do. They have bikes, they have a lawnmower, you know, and that really doesn't even accommodate them a lot. So they're really asking for the bare minimum that the maximum, which is the bare minimum they can use.
Well, it's also the design of the land there that's very
it's so non-conforming.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful home, though. They've done a really good job.
Anybody else that's here to speak on this case, Maurice?
No, if the owner is not here, I do not have anybody else.
Okay, how about city planning?
Madam Chair, I can tell you that, I agree with Diane. This is a difficult site. As you can see, it's somewhat of an oddly shaped site. It narrows down at the rear where they would put the garage. And the garage is facing the alley, which is definitely preferable from our perspective. So we recommend approval of this.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, the testimony.
Wait a minute.
Madam Chair, given the testimony, who's muted? Okay. Madam Chair, given the testimony, and showing that it's an irregular lot, there's an existing concrete pad.
What's going on? I can't hear anything except all this.
I know, it's something crazy going on. Is it clear now?
Yeah, I think it was Diane's microphone.
Okay. Once again, Madam Chair, given the testimony, and it shows that it is an irregular lot, and there's a existing concrete pad there. So I move that we approve the variances as requested for calendar number 20-110.
Second.
Call the roll.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Barnes? Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yep.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Calendar 20-110 is granted. We'll ratify this on September 14th and send you a letter.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Faith. Miss Faith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calendar number 20-111 at 12607 Larchmere. 12607 Larchmere LLC owner proposes to erect a 2-story 28-unit apartment building in a C2 local retail business district and a pedestrian retail overlay district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan.
Everyone for this case, kindly raise your right hand. Again, I'm going to read a statement. At the end of that statement, we're going to get on the board there. I want you to respond by saying I do and give us your name. So, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, Blaine Griffin.
Thank you, Blaine.
I do, Rick Marin.
Thank you, Rick.
I do, Daniel Sirk.
Alrighty. Anyone else? Hearing that, let's continue to move forward.
Thank you very much.
We had, I think Bill had his hand raised and also Marka.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do. Bill Zigley.
Okay, you were just muted. And then Marka was muted as well. But I can see that I can read lips now.
I do, Marka Fields.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Last call.
I think we got it. Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
History of the property, please, Mrs. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was originally zoned general retail. Excuse me. And in 2004, it was changed to local retail and placed in the pedestrian retail overlay district. I could not find any records on this address, and there are no variances on file for this address. And in the more recent history, there is very little information other than there was a lot consolidation earlier this year in May, and that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you very much. The legal standard will be judging the case on Ms. Wagner, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting area variances from the maximum gross floor area and off-street parking requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Who's going to be the speaker on behalf of 12607 Larchmere LLC?
Rick Marin.
Okay, Rick, tell us exactly what you'd like to do.
We're going to erect a 3-story, 29-unit Micros apartment building. The 3 stories, the square footage exceeded the zoning requirement of the lot. The 1-story doesn't, but 3 stories does. It's also in line with neighboring buildings that also have the same situation. So that's the first one. The second one is a variance where on our first plan, we had parking right up against the first floor units, so that that 10-foot was not honored. We moved that away and put a drive so that that variance could be taken care of. The other side, there always was parking against the other building for years. So those are really the only 2 issues.
Okay, who else is on the line for this case? Marco?
Yes, Marka Fields, City Planning. We reviewed this at City Planning for all of the PRO issues. It was approved. There were only a couple of minor issues, and so we did approve that. It also went to design review and to several community meetings to address all the concerns of residents, as well as some of the design issues that the committee had. He's addressed pretty much all of those issues, and we are satisfied with what he submitted and recommend approval.
Thank you very much. Besides the councilman being present, he likes to go last, is my understanding. Is there anybody else on this case, Maurice?
Yes, I'm Bill Zigley. I'm president of the Larkspur Court Condominium Association, and that's right next door to this proposed project. Not sure how these sections actually apply with regard to our building. We have the units have very narrow windows facing the development. The windows do not open. They're transom-shaped windows, maybe 10 inches high, 4 or 6 feet wide, up by the ceiling. As to ventilation, there's an existing fence there. We've been working with the developer to perhaps modify it in a way that better suits both of our purposes. We have a strong commitment from the developer on that, and based on that, the community association does support these requests for the variances. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Mr. Marin. Do you agree with what the development of the local corporation?
I'm sorry, do I agree with, I didn't understand the question.
With his suggestions?
Yes.
Yes? You're
Yes.
willing to abide by that? Okay. Councilman Griffin, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Was there anybody else? I thought it was one other person.
Oh.
If not, I'm prepared to go, but I thought it was one other person.
Maurice, was there?
Mr. Daniel Sirk? I believe it was a Daniel Sirk. Is he still on the line?
Yes, I believe he's with the development team.
Yes, I'm the architect of the project, and I'm obviously fully in support.
Oh, great. That makes it easier. Okay, Councilman.
Okay, I'm back. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and the committee. I support this project. Just to give you some background, we had a very robust community engagement process. As you know, Larchmere is a very, very vocal community, and we had a couple of community meetings. We've had several conversations. The residents had concerns about things that, are indirectly involved with this project, like parking and traffic issues on Larchmere, which we're already working with traffic engineering to address some of those valid concerns that they're bringing up. The developer has made a significant effort to accommodate the community's concerns and needs that they have asked for. At the beginning, there was a lot of people who, were not comfortable at first with the project. As you can remember, originally, we had a tenant that was going to bring about 40 jobs to this location and then have about 4 units up top. Well, because of the dreaded COVID-19, that tenant pulled, Therefore, that deal didn't go through. So now this is what we're proposing. I think it is great for the neighborhood. It adds density. It is in line with what we're trying to do on Larchmere to really try to bring more housing, affordable and market rate into the area for a lot of the workers that work in University Circle. And just to put this in context, I've lost about 4 businesses on Larchmere since COVID-19 has taken place. This kind of density, along with a couple of the other projects that we have in the area, I believe will help the business district and the merchants, as well as bring a lot of energy and a lot of activity to the Larchmere area. So I'm urging the committee to support this, and I thank the developer and the community, especially Larchmere Courts, for really staying engaged in this process and coming up with something that I think we all agree with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate your input. Any questions, board? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair.
All right.
On calendar number 20-111, giving the overwhelming support from City Planning, the Councilman Griffin, and the local tenants organization. It sounds like this is going to be a real asset to the Larchmere neighborhood, and I move that we approve their variances.
Mrs. Kelly with a second.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Ms. Barnes? Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Calendar 20-111 is granted and will be ratified on September 14th, and we'll send you a letter.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Councilman Griffin, and thank you, Bill.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Okay. Calendar 20-115 at 10320 Yale Avenue. Go ahead, Ms. Faith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calendar number 20-115 at 10320 Yale Avenue. Shirley Conte Riggins, owner, proposes to use an existing single-family residence for a state-certified adult residential care facility with a maximum of 5 adults in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinance as stated in the agenda and the public record.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan?
Well, everyone, for this case, please raise your right hand. I'm going to read a statement. I'm going to read a statement. Afterwards, I ask that you reply with the 2 words, I do, and your name. Here we go. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Anyone for the case 10320 Yale Avenue? Going once.
Maurice?
Mr. Donovan and Ms. Johnson, I have the owner registered here or signed up to speak. I don't see her.
Name?
Yes, sir.
I cannot understand whoever is speaking.
Is anybody representing Shirley Canty Riggins on the line? And Madam Chair, I don't see an email or anything from her stating that she's having issues getting into the meeting or anything. So we could move along to the next case and see if she calls in later.
Fine. Calendar 20-118 at 4701 West 157.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calendar number 20-118 at 4701 West 157th Street. Joseph and Ann Yazenko, owner, proposes to erect a 24-foot by 20-foot, one-story frame detached garage with opened patio roof area in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan?
Will everyone for this case raise your right hand? I'm going to read a statement. I'm looking for the reply, I do, and your name. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Ann Yasenko.
Anyone else?
Okay. The history of the property, is that the only one, Maurice? Is Ms. Yasenko?
1 second, please.
Shirley?
Yes, that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. The history of the property, please, Mrs. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In the records room, I found a permit was issued in 1947 to erect a masonry dwelling and garage. 1963, a permit was issued to erect a private frame garage. 1972, a permit was issued to erect a private swimming pool. In 1973, a permit was issued to erect a chain link fence. There are no variances on file and nothing of note in the more recent history. And that's all that I have, Madam Chair.
Standards, legal standard.
Ms. Johnson, you're muted. Oh, we have Lori Wagner.
Yeah, the legal standing. Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the garage placement requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Ms. Yasenko, tell us exactly what you'd like to do.
We would like to move our garage up closer to the house, which is in line with the two properties south of us. It's about 80, I believe it's about 80 feet from the sidewalk. My husband is in a wheelchair, so we would like to get the garage a little bit closer and the patio so he can go into the backyard a little more often. And also, if we put it back at the 122, which I think it is, there's a large tree right in that general area, which would probably impact the pad that we were trying to put in.
Maurice, can you go? Is there any other pictures besides?
Oh, let me.
Okay, the overhead was good. The overhead one was good. Yeah. No, they're all the garages are staggered. Okay. All right, city planning, hit me.
Madam Chair, the garage is proposed behind the house, which is appropriate. These are very deep lots, and as you can see, all of the other garages are not at they're the complete rear of these properties because they are so deep. So we recommend approval for this project.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion.
I wish they were all this easy. Madam Chair, given the testimony, I move that we approve the variance that's requested for calendar number 20-118.
Second.
Call the roll.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Was that a yes? Thank you. Ms. Bates?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes. Oh, we have some home music. Okay.
And Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Calendar 20-118 is granted. We'll ratify this case on September 14th and send you a letter.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a blessed day. Okay, did Shirley?
You too. Thanks.
sign in yet? Maurice? Don't you?
I don't see her. I have asked, I have emailed Liz's assistant to see if she can reach out to her.
Okay,
through
great.
Email to see if she intends to join or if she's having difficulties.
Okay. Calendar 20-125 at 2807 Church Avenue. Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Madam Chair, we skipped over 20-120. Would you like to do that one?
It's postponed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that myself. All right. Calendar number 20-125 at 2807 Church Avenue. 2828 Clinton Avenue, LLC. Owner proposes to establish a temporary use as outdoor live entertainment and amusement, volleyball, and can pong in a D2 local retail business district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan, it's yours.
Well, everyone, for this case, kindly raise your right hand. Again, I'm going to read a statement. I'm looking for a response that is affirmative. I do, in your name. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
We have a Mr. Zimmerman, and you're muted, sir. And I don't know if David Mason is also.
And we should have John Neal as well.
Yes, John Neal's here.
Again, looking for the words I do and your name.
I do, Brent Zimmerman.
Anyone else?
John Neal?
I'm counsel for Sauce.
Well, John Neal, if you could say I do in your name would be helpful.
I am counsel for the owner here.
You're giving testimony.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I do. John Neal.
Anyone else?
David?
David what?
Mason.
David, you're muted. I can unmute you. There you go.
David, could you say I do?
Hello?
David, are you with us? This is not a good sign. Let me repeat the instructions. I'm about to give a statement. At the end of the statement, if you're going to give testimony, I need you to affirm your commitment to the statement with the words I do, and then give us your name. Here we go. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. If you have not said I do in your name and plan to testify, this is the time for you to do it.
David Mason, I do.
Tony, that's your left hand.
Sorry. Thank you.
Early.
You know, I think he had his fingers crossed too.
Forgive
And
me.
his feet. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. History of the property, please, Mrs. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was originally zoned general retail in 1929. In 2014, it was changed to local retail. In the records room I found a permit was issued in 1969 to demolish a commercial building at the site. There are no variances on file. And in the more recent history, I found in June of this year, a permit was issued for outdoor restaurant and bar venue use of an outdoor parking lot. I'm sorry. And also in August of this year, earlier in August, on August 3rd, a permit was issued to erect 3 20 by 30 tents with no sidewalls from August 13th to November for outdoor dining. And that's all that I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. The legal standard will be judging the case on, please, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting a use variance and an area variance from the off-street parking regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship, particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zimmerman, are you the owner of this property? No. Somebody named Zimmerman, is he the owner?
Mr. Zimmerman, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No, I'm not the owner. I'm the tenant.
Oh, okay. Is the owner? There's an attorney, I think we swore in.
Yes, Ms. Johnson, this is John Neal.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. We've submitted the authorization from the owner to appear here and proceed. We emailed that to Ms. Kukla, I believe, on Friday.
Okay.
Yes,
Well,
we have that.
Who's going to be the spokesperson for this? Mr. Zimmerman?
John Neal, for the most part, will be.
Okay, Mr. Neal, tell us exactly what they'd like to do.
Very good, thank you. So what this is a very unique and new use that the city of Cleveland has been very helpful in helping to establish for us. What we are, or who we are, this is an extension of the Saucy Brew Works restaurant and brewery that currently exists at 2885 Detroit Avenue. So what this space is that if you walk across Church Avenue, this is the old abandoned and basically decrepit Cleveland Vibrator Company old industrial space. So really the reason that we're here is a function of COVID-19 and the effort by Saucy to remain in business during the times of this pandemic. So what we've done is basically taken advantage of a unique state of Ohio liquor license extension that allows us to basically walk, not literally, but figuratively, to walk across the street from our brewery and operate as an extension of the brewery there. Now, the particular concept that you see and that we've done on the Cleveland Vibrator lot is that of a beer garden. And I think as if you look at the pictures right now, you can see the picnic tables and the tents and the wide open spaces. So that's really what's going on here, is that we are reacting to the State of Ohio Board of Health and the governor's executive orders, which restrict what the brewery can do during this time of pandemic in terms of how it seats inside and how it seats outside. And working in conjunction with the property owner in the city, we were able to come up with something, it's, in my personal opinion and professional opinion, it's a win-win-win all the way around. It's helping Saucy stay afloat during the pandemic times, and we've revitalized a space, basically an industrial space, former industrial space that had no use to it whatsoever. I do want to let the board know that this is a temporary, and this ultimately it's unknown how long that Saucy is going to be doing this. We do have essentially a 1-year lease for this, so it's understood in discussions with the property owner that we're not going to be doing this forever, because at some point in time, the property owner, which is a Snavely principled entity, is probably going to redevelop this and do something else. So ultimately, that is what this is all about. This is a temporary solution to a very unique problem. And the city has been very, very supportive of us from all of the directors and commissioners into helping us get as far along as we have thus far. But of course, we have run into these zoning issues as well. I could go through and talk about some of the support that we have. Ohio City Inc. is in our favor. Councilman McCormick has been in our favor. A lot of the local stakeholders that surround this area, such as the Malachi House, have given us their support. I even have a really nice email from Malachi House that tells us how proud of the work that we're doing there and that this has been a really good change and that they haven't had a single complaint from their residents, who, by the way, I think we all understand that's a particularly vulnerable population. There's been no complaints whatsoever with what we're doing, and they're really pleased to see the social distancing, this solution that we've implemented. So ultimately, what we're trying to do here is get people outside, whereas we otherwise can't do that. And so in connection with that, you'll see that we've got a volleyball. We need an entertainment variance because we propose to do volleyball out there. And there it is. On the right side, you'll see the proposed volleyball net. And there's a couple of little stations where people play the equivalent of can pong, just throwing a ball into a bunch of smaller plastic barrels. And then you would see off to the far left, we have a little area that we would designate for acoustic music. So all of these uses have been discussed in great detail with the city and all of the appropriate stakeholders nearby. So that being said, Brent, is there, in terms of the hours, this is not something that you're going to see going on late into the night. Brent can speak to the hours that we intend that we're doing there, but ultimately we think that this is a really nice new use. And again, as I've indicated, the city's been instrumental in getting this going as quickly as we can. One other point I would make to the board here is that this isn't the first one of these that you'll see. Platform Brewery was actually the first, and the city was likewise very supportive of them in helping to get that open. Theirs is called The Yard, and if you look at that, you can actually bring that up online. I know the commission or the board probably can't do that as it sits here, but their use is extremely similar to what we're talking about here, which is some volleyball and some entertainment. So in terms of the use variance that we're seeking, we really do have enough, there is an unnecessary hardship by virtue of this particular layout of this space. But what I would indicate to the board is that it's located in such a way to minimize any potential conflict with the local area stakeholders and the other nearby residents. If we're familiar with this area, it's got the Church and State development that's going on really right across Church Avenue there to the north. Exactly. Can't see it. There you go. You can actually see the Church and State building up there in the upper right picture. And then the other bordering buildings and uses, many of them are commercial in that they're restaurant uses, and there's really no residential that is anywhere near this in terms of having any type of conflict. It's really more designed as a neighborhood amenity than it is anything else. The people that are coming to this are the people that otherwise could not patronize the Saucy Brewery because of occupancy restrictions and the Board of Health's orders that prevent us from having, the number of those people inside.
Mr. Neal, I have a question.
Yes.
You're only asking for a 1-year approval by this board?
I wouldn't limit it to the 1 year, but I would indicate that as a matter of our lease is our current lease only runs to the end of this year, and obviously we're not going to be outside in the winter. So
That's
going
not
to be-
true. That's not true. We
Oh,
will
okay.
go outside in the winter.
Go ahead.
We won't play volleyball in the winter, but we are making arrangements, much like different cities in Europe and Michigan that use either geodesic domes or greenhouses and stuff like that to hopefully to be able to extend the season. We'll see if that works or not. There's a lot of work that goes into it, but we're considering it because we've seen a precedent in other cities around the world. But our main focus here is being able to play these volleyball games with a company called Hermes, who does all this organization for us. That's all they do for a living, through the fall and early winter season.
What is the surface of the volleyball court?
We spent $25,000 building the volleyball court, so it would be a court that could host professional tournaments if needed. So we dug down and put a sub base of I don't know what size stone it is. I'm not a contractor, but then appropriate sand that they would use if you were watching, volleyball on TV, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Faith, I think, had her hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question to the owners and their representatives. You said you had a one-year lease. When did that begin? When does that terminate? And what are your plans for extending that lease, and to what date would you extend it to?
Right now, the lease runs through the end of this year. And the Snavely's are absolutely going to develop this into multifamily use. It's a question of if they start in the spring or the summer or, whatever. You know how the process goes and how long that takes. And so right now we've just run the lease to the end of the year as a to be determined. If quote unquote, we got lucky, and I only say that because we spent the capital, so the longer we can use it, the better. But if we got lucky, maybe we would get into next summer. But right now it's anticipated, December 31st, it's done.
Right. So for that reason, I don't want to limit the request specifically to 1 year, only to have us come back here again and do it again. But the intent of what I'm communicating is that this is not going to be a permanent use.
Madam Chair, I don't understand how we could limit the use to 1 year. I thought that the rulings we had, unless they're like a temporary tent structure or something like that, go with the life of the property.
But that's the problem that I'm anticipating from Snavely. Yeah.
This is Lori Wagner. And I think Susan Donovan is technically correct. So the board has, on occasions where there's unique circumstances, limited the ruling to a specific period of time for the variance. Example, the parking for the Browns games. So I think under these particular circumstances, if the board chose to limit it to a period of time, it could do so.
Yeah.
I believe, don't we do that? The one case we have that comes every year.
The tents.
And we give them temporary permit for a year, and they have to keep coming back.
Yeah, those are tents out in University Circuit. However, given the testimony, what I was going to say is, given the testimony, I don't think it's going to matter if this is a variance that falls under the restrictions or purview that it's going to stay with the property. By the way, the asterisk is until it changes. So Snavely will probably have to come in and they'll do a change. They have to reflect the housing. Right. Get rid of the variances that we would award today for this use. I just want to point out that that's probably legally the way to do it. These are unusual times. I don't think the city is that quick on their feet. They can start to create the kinds of zoning language that would fit instances like this. By the time we got done doing that, it would be next summer and they wouldn't be able to have a volleyball game. So I don't see any reason not to grant the variances. I don't see any real objection to the fact that they would be stated that they would go with the life of the property, because I expect they'll change.
Keep in mind too, guys, Snavely's, I don't want to disclose the exact amount. I don't know if it's public or not, but they've paid multi-millions of dollars for this property. And I can assure you that what we're paying them as a lease is not the return they're looking for or best use. So, I mean, short of me winning the lottery and turning this into the best beer garden on earth, at which point I would come back to you guys anyway, we probably won't be playing volleyball too long there.
I agree.
Is there anybody else on this case, please?
I have nobody else signed up. I don't know if anyone else is here. Is anybody from OCI here?
Or the councilman's office? Or the councilman? No.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
We have someone, Ms. Kukla has her hand raised.
Madam Chair, for the record, it is going to be more than volleyball. I believe there is some entertainment use, as the appellant talked about, the live music, or what type of entertainment is going to be at the site?
Yeah, so we would have acoustic guitar, and just so everybody knows, we've touched on this a little bit, but we didn't get to the final answer. We close the beer garden at 10 o'clock every night anyway, so it would never be a late night nuisance. As anyone knows that's been to Saucy, Maine, even on Saturday nights we close that at midnight. So we're not interested in late night crowd and what that brings with it. And to have a full, in general, to have a full band, given the distancing and stuff we have to do, probably isn't economically feasible. So what we're trying to do is just have some acoustic people and try to, a lot of those people in that industry are hurting big time because there are no concerts anywhere right now. So we don't really make any money off doing it. It actually costs us money. Hopefully it, provides an environment where people can enjoy music live and help some of the artists that are, around Cleveland. At 10 o'clock will be the cutoff anyway.
Madam Chair, we've had this issue before us many a time, and the one thing that always rules the day, and it's a pertinence to the world we live in today, is you cannot restrict free speech. So therefore, we cannot restrict the type of entertainment other than the fact that the owner is saying that it's their intention to have a product that isn't going to be heavy metal, rap, whatever.
That
we
is
have to just take their word for it. We can't restrict it.
Also, the precedent of, the Vibe Garden has been open just without the entertainment uses. And as a precedent, what I'm telling you in terms of what time we are closing, that's when we're closing. So
we can do that. We can put closing hours, and we should.
Yeah, and I'm happy with that. We don't care about being open late anyway.
So you're stating that your closing hours are 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday, or what?
10 p.m. is what we have been doing.
All
that gives us
days?
enough time to, just so everybody knows, the volleyball leagues generally get over. It depends on the day, but would get over at 8 or 9. So it allows some time for people to clear out and go on home.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns? I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, given the testimony and the circumstances we all live in today, I would move that we would grant the requested variances. We have an understanding that this is a use that will probably not last much longer than a year. If it makes it to a year, it will have entertainment, and the owner of the establishment has basically publicly stated that he will be using acoustic, softer, if you will, sound in terms of the entertainment product, and that the space itself will close every day at 10 p.m.
A second.
Madam Chair, might I just interject real quick that I did receive something from Don Pettit from the Landmarks Commission. This is in the Landmarks District. And he wanted to let us know that the permit application was approved administratively by the Landmarks staff based on its temporary use, and they have no objection to the variances. Just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Call the roll.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Britt,
Yes.
Ms. Bates,
Yes.
Mr. Donovan,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Calendar 20-125 is granted. We will ratify this case on September 14th and we'll send you a letter.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Sean.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I want to point out that I believe I see Shirley, Miss Riggins on WebEx now.
Ms. Riggins, are
Hello.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. Ms. Faith, you want to read number 20-115 on Yale Avenue once more?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Calendar number 20-115 at 10320 Yale Avenue. Shirley Conte Riggins, owner, proposes to use an existing single-family residence for a state-certified adult residential care facility with a maximum of 5 adults in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan, floor is
Will
yours.
everyone for this case kindly raise your right hand? I'm going to state a statement. At the end of it, I ask that you reply with the 2 words, I do, in your name. Here we go. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do. Your name?
Your name.
Shirley Canty Riggins.
Okay.
And I'm David Riggins.
And do you do as well?
I do.
Okay. Anyone else here for this case?
No.
I have no one else signed up, Mr. Donovan.
Okay, thank you very much. History of the property, please, Mrs. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was originally zoned 2-family in 1929. In 1961, it was changed to single-family. In the records room I found, a permit was issued in 1969 to demolish a private garage and erect a new garage. There are no variances on file. And in the more recent history, in June of 2005, a certificate of disclosure was issued stating that the authorized use of the property is single-family. And that's all that I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. The legal standard we'll be judging the case on, please, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting an area variance from the spacing requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Ms. Riggins, tell us exactly what you'd like to do.
I would like the opportunity to continue to care for my 2 residents in our home. I've been licensed since 2005 as an adult care provider. At that time, I purchased my home from my mother-in-law, who operated an adult foster home for over 20 years at this location. I have an excellent relationship with my neighbors. Many of them is long-time homeowners. I have talked to my neighbors with no objection to my home. They know me and they know my home is quiet and well kept, and there has never been an incident involving any of my residents.
So you're asking us to allow 2 family members to stay? Did I understand that correctly or not?
No. They're not family members.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
Oh, no.
Okay. But you want up to 5 people. But look at how many are in the area. Can you?
No, I just have 2. My limit is 3. I would prefer 3, but I really don't want to go up to 5.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a comment.
Please.
We had our GIS staff person create this map for us. As Ms. Riggins has testified, she already comes up on the list as a certified residential facility. So I'm not sure If you look at the buffer zone, which are the blue circles, she is not within 1,000 feet of any other existing care facility. And I'm wondering if Building and Housing wrote this one up because the fact that the Riggins family home was already listed, and if that was what generated this.
Yeah, Maurice, that was my question too, as well as if she's not even going up to 5, then does she even have to be here for that as well? So
that's why I wanted to raise this question.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused on why she's here then.
There's a lot of blue on the screen.
Yeah, but her circle blue, she doesn't have any homes around her. In her
Yeah. So her 1,000, she is not within the 1,000-foot buffer of any of the others. She would be in the darker blue because there'd be other buffer zones overlaid over her. But as you can see, they come close, but she's not within 1,000 feet. Ms. Kukla has her hand raised.
Mrs. Kukla?
Madam Chair, I think we should go forward with this variance because I believe for the licensing requirement, she needs to prove that she has the zoning in line for this use. So I would be nervous about having her withdraw and going back to Building and Housing only because of the strange write-up, and I just think going forward might be the most beneficial for her at this point. Just because of, I'm pretty sure that for the licensing, they're required to show that the zoning approves it at this point.
Well, Madam Chair, I might also point out that Mr. Riccardi typed in the chat window that he would check on it, but if she withdraws from BZA, the zoning will be approved with these newly discovered facts. So either way, I mean, you could just grant the variance, she'll still be able to move forward, or, I mean, it seems to me that that's your decision. We're comfortable either way.
Yeah, I'm comfortable just granting the variance. So I'll just make a motion that Madam Chair, we grant the variance, and then that way she's covered either way. Yeah.
I'll second that.
I would second that.
Oh, we both did.
Yes.
Call the roll.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yep.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Calendar 20-115 is granted. We will ratify this on September 14th and send you a letter.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you guys. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Take care. Calendar 20-126 at 3501 Woodbine. Go ahead, Ms. Faith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calendar number 20-126 at 3501 Woodside. Excuse me, I just had some documents fall off my desk. Nicole E. Trombetta, owner, proposes to erect a one-story frame rear kitchen addition to existing single-family residence in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda in the public record.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan?
Will everyone for this case, kindly raise your right hand? You're going to make a statement. Your response to it is, I do, with your name. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, Amy Carrion.
I do, Stephen Schill.
Anyone else? Hearing none, move it on.
Okay, history of the property, please, Mrs. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, I believe that Mr. Schill, I got a letter from Trombetta stating that she needed to send somebody to cover or represent her today, and Mr. Schill is the person, I believe. So just for the record, he is her representative, and we have a letter approving that. Okay, so the original zoning was multifamily in 1929. In 1985, it was changed to two-family. In the records room I found in 1978, a permit was issued to erect a two-family dwelling. and to erect a single-family dwelling. And there are 2 variances on file for this case, Madam Chair. In calendar 88-77, a variance was granted to erect 50 linear feet of 6-foot-tall stockade fence, and again, that was in 1983. And then in 1985, this board granted a variance to split the lots. And then, Madam Chair, in the more recent history, I found that 2008, a permit was issued to re-roof the property. 2011, a permit was issued to erect 16 linear feet of 6-foot-high wooden fence. And that's all that I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Yielding to the Law Department, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the maximum gross floor area, rear yard, and distance requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Schill. You're going to be the representative for Nicole. Tell us exactly what she'd like to do.
Okay, the home as it currently exists, it already has these 3 variances. All I'm going to do is be taking the back end, and I don't know why your PDF is squished or squashed, but I'm going to just take the back 12 feet of the house off and rebuild it because it's in disrepair. So I'm not actually putting an addition on, although I know once you take it down, it's called an addition.
Oh.
Everything currently exists.
Okay. And I believe Amy was sworn in.
Yes, I was. I represent my mother, Carmen Santana. I sent an email to Ms. Kukla, or to the email, and she responded that I could represent my mother. This is a home that I grew up in and but very familiar with. And according to the information, it actually wants to reduce the back to 4.5 feet from the property line. Now, here's the issue. This tree is on their property, and the purple house is to their west. The house right here is the house that we're adjacent to in the back, which is the question. And then this house here is to the west of our house. Additionally, you cannot see the parcel in question. This tree is actually on their property, and the parcel to the east of 3501 Woodbine is actually already built. They built a second building, and that's like butted up against the property line. So between the tree situation, which a few years ago we sent a letter that the branches were in danger of damaging property, etc. They trimmed the lower branches, and then the tree grew higher. That tree is extremely, that takes up most of that 4 foot in their side of the property. So my concern is because he's saying that he's going to knock it down and rebuild the same size, but that's not what this says. It says that they want to reduce it. And so if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying that these variances were already in place when this back of the house was put in before? I'm not understanding that.
All I'm saying is the house as it currently exists today is all we're going to rebuild. We're not expanding any variances. We're not changing anything. We're building the identical footprint. We're just rebuilding it back.
Well, that's the confusion, is that when we got this, it says that it's going to be 4.5 feet. The house is going to be 4.5 feet from the property, when in fact there's more than that right now. As well as the fact that I don't know if it was considered that is. Does it fall under the irregular shape because that back end is not square, and so the spacing is actually supposed to be about 11 feet not 4.5 feet. So if they would take that tree out, I think that would alleviate the issue, because if they're going to build back there and they're going to build back against closer, and you have that blue house that's right next to your house, there's another building behind it, and that is completely up against the property, and that tree in the back is on that property, is on there. So I couldn't identify the parcel number to the blue house, but the other house to the right of it, the one with all the fancy front. If you could go back, if you don't mind, that the picture with the photograph. Yes. So the one with the porch, I couldn't figure out the parcel, but that tree can also fall that way. I mean, it's a real tight space. And that tree has actually damaged our chain link fence to the point where all we have is that wooden fence that was erected last. So I really have some concerns about the back end of that with that tree there now. I mean, the tree wasn't that big when when it was there before, you know what I'm saying? And now when you're building that, you have this potential of that whole area, 4 homes being affected by that tree as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and the fact that it's not a square space, and that blue house has a second building behind it that is butted up against both our properties as well. So that's what I say, I think. I mean, I'm all for the improvement, believe me, because I grew up in this area. That's where I grew up as a child. And I watched a tree in the neighbor house hit a kitchen from the back of it from a tornado in 1970. So I'm familiar with what could happen in that area, and I don't want anything to happen there. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Was there anybody else? Maurice was sworn in?
I have nobody else that's signed up for this.
Okay.
We do have a letter of support from a neighbor.
Yes, I do, from Denise and Jim Link at 3403 Woodbine. They're in support of the well, they call it an expansion, but it's addition rather, not a renovation. It should have been written up as a renovation if they were putting it back in the same place. Board, any questions? Now I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, could we go to the aerial view, please?
Sure. And Madam Chair, I'd just like to point out that the project was approved administratively by the landmark staff because it is in a rear yard addition.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't ask you for your approval, though, Mr. Rulins. I apologize. Okay. All right. Did somebody else have a question? Alana, did you?
I'm just looking at the picture. Just wanted to take note of the tree that the other person, I'm sorry, that Amy was commenting on. So, and
one is dry. That doesn't have any leaves on it, so you really can't see how big it is, but it's very, very big.
Yeah. To the appellant, are you going to need to run heavy equipment over the root system of that tree in your demolition or construction?
No, not at all. This is all going to be handwork. It's going to be done with wheelbarrows and hands. I mean, there's only a very small amount of side yard.
Okay. All right. That's all the question I have, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anybody else? Then I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, given the testimony and support from landmarks as well as the adjoining neighbors, I move that we approve the variances as requested for calendar number 20-126. And just to the appellant, to make sure that you try to address some of the concerns that the neighbor spoke about there.
I will.
Second.
Call the roll.
Ms. Barnes? Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes, I'm going to vote yes, given the testimony that the appellant is not going to be using heavy equipment that might compromise the root system of the tree, and that he will maintain it going forward so that it is not a hazard to the neighbors. So I vote yes.
Madam Chair, are we making that a condition of this motion?
Ask Ms. Faith. Are you making any condition on the motion?
Just making my comment for the record. I don't think it needs to be a condition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'll separate the comment from the motion. I mean, from her vote, to make sure that's on the record.
Pardon me, one more time. I can't hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, the emergency is over now. No, I was just saying we just need to make sure that we are separating her vote from the comment.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So I have Ms. Barnes, Mr. Donovan, Ms. Faith, Ms. Britt,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Calendar 20-126 is granted. We'll ratify it on September 14th and send you a letter.
Thank you.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Okay, calendar 20-119, the appeal of Barley House.
Excuse me,
Madam
Ms.
Chair?
Barnes is leaving.
Yes. Who's,
Madam Chair, Ms. Barnes has to leave at this time.
I'm sorry?
I believe Ms. Barnes has to leave at this time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So we will be down to 4 members. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Faith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calendar number 20-119, appeal of Barley House from cease and desist notice dated July 21, 2020, issued by Commissioner of Assessments and Licenses. Barley House appeals under the authority of Section 76-6 of the Charter of the City of Cleveland and Section 32902D of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances to dispute the July 21st, 2020 decision of the Commissioner of Assessments and Licenses to issue a cease and desist notice due to violations of Section 683.06 at 1261 West 6th Street, filed August 4th, 2020.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan?
Will everyone for this case kindly raise your right hand? I'm going to make a statement. At the end of that statement, I'm going to be looking for your affirmation. That affirmation comes with the 2 words, I do, and your name. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Joe Warbeck.
I do. Kevin Delpiaz.
I do. Aaron Simpson.
I do. Steve
I
Decker.
do. Jill Noble.
Anyone else?
Lori Winter.
I do. Dedrick Stevens.
Okay.
Do Dorothy Todd.
I do. LaRonda Talton.
Okay. You've sworn everybody in?
Sounds like it.
Okay, the legal standard will be set for Lisa. Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is appealing an administrative decision. The standard of review to be applied is whether the administrative decision was illegal, arbitrary, capricious, unreasonable, or unsupported by the preponderance of substantial, reliable, and probative evidence. If the appellant fails to meet this burden, the administrative decision must be affirmed.
Thank you very much. Who's going to be the spokesperson, Maurice, for Barley House? Of all those names.
LaRonda Talton, Assessments of Division of Assessments and Licenses.
I didn't hear that.
LaRonda Talton, Division of Assessments and Licenses.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, tell us exactly why they were cited.
As a result of complaints from residents of the Warehouse District, a cease and desist notice was hand-delivered to the Barley House on July 21st of 2020 for various violations of Codified Ordinance Chapter 683. The notice directed the owners of the Barley House to either 1, apply for a permit, 2, remove the speakers, or 3, appeal. On July 28th of 2020, the Barley House submitted 4 separate sound device applications for each speaker that they have mounted on the outside of their establishment. The Director of Public Safety denied each one of the applications. A denial notice was not mailed, but hand-delivered to the establishment on July 30th of 2020, and a subsequent revised denial notice was hand-delivered on August 11th of 2020.
Is there a difference between the two?
Yeah.
They're all the same. There's just one application for each speaker that they have.
So they were never granted the right to have those speakers on the outside. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we have Erin Hansen with their hands up.
Okay. Erin?
Thank you. For the record, Erin Hansen, I am an attorney with Kevin Spellacy. Mr. Spellacy has been logged in kind of in and out throughout the morning between his other hearings. He did his best to be present. It does not appear he is logged in, but I do have authority through Mr. Spellacy in Barley House and with Joe Oravec here next to me to act on behalf of Mr. Spellacy and Barley House.
Okay. And your comments?
Thank you. To begin with, the cease and desist notice specifically cites codified in ordinances 63806A and B in terms of the speaker permits. It's our position that the speakers most certainly would not fall under codified in ordinance 63806A. We're not using them to attract attention to a performance or show or sale or display of merchandise. And then we would assert the same defense to 63806B. I mean, specifically, if the board is unaware, it's 4 speakers outside on the patio. It's my understanding through Mr. Oravec that the speakers have been in place since the patio opened 7 or 8 years ago. While we do understand also the concerns of the community and potential noise complaints, we have no clue what dates that these violations were alleged to have occurred, no clue who filed the complaints. So I know part of the reason that Mr. Spellacy filed this was because we did not have really any information to defend against. If we don't believe the speakers being present themselves without a permit for the last 7 years are a violation.
Who else is on call?
Madam Chair, we have Stephen Decker with his hand raised.
Okay, Stephen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm the attorney for the Division of the License and Assessments, and I want to respond specifically to the assertion that they don't fall under codified ordinance 683.06. Under subsection B, the language, and I'm going to quote it verbatim, specifically states that no owner, agent, or operator of a commercial enterprise located within a permanent structure or building shall use, set up, or operate a sound amplifying system which is deliberately directed and placed so as to be plainly audible outside the structure or building and which is used to transmit music of any type without a permit. In this case, the operator is obviously the Barley House. They are a commercial enterprise. They are located within a permanent structure. They have set up and they have used and operated a sound amplifying device, specifically the JBL Control 28 speakers, and they are directed and placed outside of the building, and they are transmitting music. It is our position that they fall exactly within the language of 683.0B, and thus they do require a permit to operate those speakers. And as to their second point, I believe we have several people from the warehouse district that we have been in contact with who have filed complaints. And I also believe we have Commander Todd who can also testify regarding their complaints and the noise and the various things associated with Barley House as well.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question here? What we're looking at today in terms of arbitrary, capricious, etc., does that have to do with the permit, or does that have to do with incidents of loud noise from the speakers?
We are concerned, or initially we were concerned with the fact that they have these placed outside and they're using them in violation of the requirement for a permit. But I also learned this morning that apparently they were issued a citation for noise as well.
Okay, but again, the case that we have before us, does it include both of those, or does it include the permit, or does it include the noise? I mean, it seems like there's two issues here. They may not both be in play. I don't know.
Well, Mr. Donovan, could I clarify that? Lori Wagner on behalf of the city. We are here both appeal of a cease and desist order and a denial of a request and application for permit, which was made to licenses. They both involve the same factual and legal issues.
So they don't have a permit, and it was noisy, and the neighbors have complained. Simple language. Is that my understanding, Ms. Wagner?
That is correct.
Okay.
All right.
There are others that were sworn in. I'd like to hear from everybody. Kevin?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for
State your name again.
Sure. My name is Kevin Dalpiaz. I'm a resident of the Warehouse District. I'm actually in the Erie building, which is located behind the parking lot and the said patio with speakers.
What's the address? What's your address?
Sure. It's 1260 West 4th Street.
Okay.
And I'm in unit. Yeah. Okay. So just as a quick rebuttal, the music has been played since June of 2016. But anyways, for 4 years, the surrounding residents have endured the sound assault of the Barley House outdoor speakers. The music has played beyond 2 a.m., which is well past the 8 p.m. cutoff prescribed by Chapter 683 in the Sound Device Ordinance. The use of the speakers are not only Friday and Saturday nights, but Thursday nights and Sundays. The music volume is so loud that it routinely wakes me up out of a deep sleep inside of my bedroom, which is located 200 feet away, 3 stories, and inside of a brick building. I'm not a sound engineer, but I'm certain that this level of volume far exceeds those standards prescribed in Chapter 683 Sound Ordinance Devices. The result of these years of continued sound assault has caused hundreds of sleepless nights and interrupted sleep, inability to entertain friends and family, which has negatively impacted the quality of life for me and numerous surrounding residents, some of whom are on this call, and many others that could not make this meeting or who over the last few years simply fled the neighborhood to avoid this unbearable condition. This has led to residents dreading the weekend and diminishing their well-being. The feeling of angst, anger, and frustration. It has caused a loss of income as my last renters, both medical students, were forced to evacuate due to the sound assault. The constant abrupt awakening to loud music at midnight, 1, 2, 3 a.m., getting out of bed, calling the police, and hoping they respond or eventually the music ceases. There have been hundreds of calls into the 3rd District, as Commander Todd can prescribe, and a result of the sound assault. This draws law enforcement's attention away from other potentially more serious issues. It has put an unfair burden on the surrounding residents to, quote, police the Barley House's illegal and selfish use of these loudspeakers. In fact, despite a cease and desist order, the Barley House blasted their music yesterday, Sunday afternoon, starting at 4 p.m., and it took Commander Todd of the 3rd District to send officers at least twice before the music was turned down, sometime after 7 p.m. A citation was issued. Here are the facts. The Barley House knowingly operates unpermitted loudspeakers at illegal volumes and beyond code-specific durations. Barley House blatantly disregards the negative impact on their neighbors as demonstrated by the continuous use despite police interventions, citations, and the cease and desist order. Today, the Barley House is requesting they be allowed to continue the very same abusive use of their loudspeakers, which does not comply with Chapter 683. By their own permit application, the Barley House is seeking approval to A, use a 150-watt JBL sound amplifying device, which would be over 7 times the permitted volume. According to JBL manufacturer's information in the permit application, 150-watt speakers can emit 88 decibels, which according to the Center for Disease Control is higher than your ear being next to a gas-powered mower or leaf blower and can damage hearing after 2 hours of exposure. Second thing, they're looking for the use after 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., which is specifically identified and prohibited and is the main reason the loudspeakers have negatively impacted residents' ability to enjoy life and to prevent them from being victims of the sound assault. They also looking for use on Friday and Saturday nights, which actually extends into Sunday, which again, Chapter 683 specifically prohibits permitted use on Sundays. The Barley House has used their loudspeakers on other days of the week besides just Friday and Saturday nights, as again experienced this past Sunday. Requesting use over multiple weekends. Chapter 683 only allows permit for no more than 14 days and not to exceed 30 days in a calendar year. Let's keep in mind that the Cleveland City Council worked painstakingly hard to develop a sound ordinance that factored in all points of view, including those of business and residents, when developing and ratifying Chapter 683 and its requirements. Chapter 683 has been thoroughly vetted to best suit the needs of the city. The responsibility before us is not to argue or interpret the ordinance, but rather follow its prescriptive execution and maintain fairness that was already baked into this ordinance. Through 4 grueling years of impacted well-being, diminished quality of life, loss of income, reduced enjoyment, and hundreds of sleepless nights caused by this awful sound assault, the Barley House has clearly demonstrated that they are incapable of abiding by the laws of this city, displayed their disregard for the concerns of their neighbors, and have shown the inability to act as a good neighbor or citizen. The residents vehemently request the denial of this appeal and immediate removal of the illegal loudspeakers. We make our request based on the egregious history of the Barley House's sound assault and years of being victimized, including as recently as last night. The actions of the Barley House in regards to the loudspeakers have spoken volumes that they cannot be entrusted to do the right thing. As long as those illegal loudspeakers remain, the threat of a sound assault remains. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Hansen, any rebuttal?
Good morning. Kevin Spellis here on behalf of the...
You showed up. Okay, Kevin, we have to swear you in. Oh, no, we don't. You're a law attorney.
Yeah. I would just say this. First of all, historically, the Barley House has been there for approximately 12 years, right? Historically, that patio has been operating in the same way it operates today for about 10 years. So this audio assault, as the gentleman says, is probably breaching at best. But be that as it may, we take exception, first of all, with the idea that 683 does comply. I think the way it's written says that transmitting a type of music or message advertising a product, right? The megaphone situation, I know you say doesn't apply, but to say the way it's written, I don't think is applicable to our client either. There isn't an establishment on the street that doesn't have the same ability to project music that isn't advertising. It's music that people enjoy. It's not a commercial for someone to buy a Garfield Heights 1-2 whatever. But this is a situation where I take exception with the gentleman's characterization, because I think he intermingles several different establishments at the same time. I mean, there's 3 or 4 directly in connection with the Barley House that have the same thing going every night, not just Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, we did, even though we disagree with the idea that this section applies, we did apply for a permit. And I can't imagine why those would be denied the rest of the street has those, and I'm going to guess they probably don't have them because again, I don't think they're applicable. I mean, it'd be like saying to Forward down in the flats, who has neighbors adjacent to and across the river, that they can't play music. I don't think that's a reasonable request. But if you want to, we've offered in the past to be a good neighbor. We've offered in the past to sit down, and I've written the letters to the various commanders of the 2nd District, to sit down with neighbors and attempt to be good neighbors. Not once has anybody taken me up on my offer. So, and I am the author, and I can produce several of those letters over the years. So,
isn't this the 3rd District down the city of Cleveland downtown?
I'm sorry, 3rd District, right?
Okay.
But I've written those letters on behalf of Barley House in the past to sit down and to be a good neighbor and to see if there's a remedy. But you have to understand, I mean, this is, whether they characterize it or not, it is an entertainment district as well. I mean, you have a series of bars and restaurants and what are referred to as nightclubs on the same street. And like I said, historically, they've been there 12 years. This isn't anything that's just happened on yesterday, with all due respect. And I'm going to repeat myself here, but as I said earlier, we don't believe the section applies to us. And as it may, we've attempted to abide by what you guys consider to be the applicable statute, and we were denied. So I guess if the city of Cleveland's in a position where they want to put another restaurant out of business during the pandemic, then the opportunity is here for you. But
Madam Chair?
I would suggest that that's not what your board is for, nor is that what I think the city's promoting, nor do I think that's what anybody wants here. So I would suggest, one, that you grant our application and allow us to continue as we move forward. Thank you very much.
But what we're deciding on today, Kevin, is the cease and desist for what has happened, not for the permitting thing. That those are illegal speakers outside that are such volume of 80 some decibels or whatever, that it's impacting their life. And that's what they've been cited on. Cease and desist.
This is Lori Wagner. That's not accurate. I think this appeal is both the cease and desist as well as a denial of a permit. So just to clarify the record here.
Madam Chair, Maurice Rollins, Stephen Decker has his hand raised.
Violations, it says violations.
Just briefly on 68306, I would point to the language again, which says, and which is used to transmit any type of music followed by the word or messaging, advertising product. So it's any type of music or messaging. It's not just advertising product music or advertising products. It's any type of music.
No, the or is for the message or the music. The advertising is for both. So it's music, advertising products sold on the premises, or messages, advertising products sold. So I can understand where you would read that one way, but actually I think it's read the other. And when you take it in context of the loudspeaker, it's exactly what I think the intention was. So I mean, those speakers, just again, historically, those same speakers have been there for approximately 8 years.
I object. That is not correct. Those speakers were installed in June of 2016. I would also just like to mention that there was a similar appeal in the City of Cleveland Municipal Court. It was case number 210 CRB 3550. Judge Emanuela Groves was the judge. It was the City of Cleveland versus the Velvet Dog. They were very much similar in that they had a rooftop deck. They were playing music. They were cited. And one of the arguments was that the defendant claims that the city was waived enforcement of the ordinance. Therefore, it's unfair to enforce it now. This argument has no merit. The city has the right to exercise its discretion in enforcement of an ordinance. The mere fact that the city chose to ignore prior violations of the noise ordinance does not mean that the city is forever prohibited from enforcing compliance. I just want to make sure we were clear. Thank you.
And I want to be clear that that place still operates the same manner it did back when that case was in front of Judge Groves. They still have speakers. They still have a rooftop bar. and they still have music.
The speakers are not played according to well, we can talk to Commander Todd about that because that's not the case. There is, if you, again, this is the City of Cleveland municipal court case that's what the judge said. So you cannot argue that that because it's been going on for X amount of time, which it started in June of 2016. So it's been 4 years.
Well, so my comments are directed to you only because you act like it just happened. Like we're screaming fire for the first time.
Well, it's not because we've worked with Commander. I would ask Commander Todd to talk about the longevity of the complaints, and we've also got other neighbors that can have been there longer than I have that can also attest that this has been an issue for quite some time since the original speakers installed. So this is not. It's just a matter of it's gotten to this point, but the sound assault has been occurring since June of 2016.
Gentlemen, I would like to remind you that if you would like to talk, you need to ask the chairwoman for permission before you talk back and forth at each other, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure we have Commander Todd and we have Ms. Kukla with their hands raised.
Okay.
And excuse me, but I'm on the phone, so at some point I would like to speak. And my name is Jill Noble. I'm a resident. So when you have a chance,
do the commander first.
Commander.
Yes, good morning. So I'll try and give a little bit of clarification on the complaint. This is an ongoing complaint. Not originally, this started as a complaint about noise in the entire area down there. So the warehouse district, we got a lot of complaints from the residents. Then we started with our enforcement. What I have expressed in several meetings with all of the different businesses that participated was the two requirements: that they not play outdoor speakers, and that when they do have their music playing, that they keep their doors closed and their overhead doors and windows closed so the sound did not amplify into the street. I sent the ordinances to everyone who participates in the warehouse district meetings, and they were all advised, including the Barley House. I haven't had any recent complaints about their outdoor speakers until yesterday. I sent a supervisor out there, and when my supervisor responded out, he pointed to the occupancy permit for their outdoor cafe, and they advised my supervisor that that was their permit for the outdoor music. So he contacted me, sent me a picture, and I told him, no, that's not what that's for, that they do not have a permit for the speakers. It was on his body camera, which I reviewed this morning. It was loud. It was extremely loud. He went back again. He asked them, he thought they understood the fact that once they were cited, that they had to turn it off. They didn't turn it off until he went back again, and they asked him basically, they said to him, well, what are you going to do if we don't turn it off? So I am at the in between the residents and the businesses. We're not trying to shut them down. We are trying to come into some sort of agreement with both so everyone's happy. But I'm not taking sides on this, but I've asked the same from every business down there. Don't play outdoor speakers that are not permitted, and keep the doors closed so the music is not amplifying into the street.
Okay. Are you getting compliance from any other businesses?
So most of them are in compliance. We still get, a little bit where we have to remind. And again, a lot of times that's all we're doing. We're trying to go out there and just keep everyone into compliance. Just say, you know what, you got to shut the doors. And then they'll shut their doors. Or you got to say, we'll tell them you have to shut the outdoor speakers off, and they shut them off. Everyone seems to be listening. Yesterday seemed to be, I was a little surprised about how much pushback we got back yesterday, where it was almost to the point where we had to issue another citation. We just got a lot of pushback from the business yesterday about turning the speakers off.
So basically, it's a complaint-driven system. We're not going there to unless somebody calls in, unless a neighbor calls in and how loud it is, there's no way of stopping it.
So basically, the only thing, we have details down there on Friday and Saturday nights. Yesterday on Sundays, I don't have a detail down there, so it was just a call. If somebody contacted me, so if the details are working, they know what the rules are and they advise them while they're working.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Commander.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair, did you want to take the call-in user?
Yes, please. Alana, hold on. We'll get you. Yeah, the call.
Ma'am, go ahead. The call-in user that spoke previously.
Yes, this is Jill Noble, and what I want to say is, and it's been stated kind of already, that this is just about being a good neighbor. And what we are doing, nobody is trying to put the Barley House out of business, but this has been going on for quite some time. And you got to remember, part of the stuff related to the warehouse district, and the reason that there may not have been as many complaints in the beginning when the Barley House was there is because development has happened over time. People had moved in here, but the previous owners of the apartment that I am in, or condo that I am currently in, moved out of here partly because of that. And they made many, many complaints before we took over the location. And so the complaints have been going on for many years. It's not like other people said, it just hasn't happened recently. And, and just the whole point about these outdoor speakers in the warehouse district, I mean, that's another issue in and of itself. So this is a matter, like I said, of being a good neighbor and being able to have a good night's sleep at some point in time without your windows vibrating and other things happening in your apartment. So I think that, the Barley House needs to take into consideration other people around them. Nobody's trying to put them out of business. And another comment I want to make, in spite of this pandemic, I know there are issues related to it, but boy, certainly doesn't seem like social distancing. Just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in. Okay, Alana,
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, this is Liz Kukla. Just for clarification, Ms. Wagner stated that this is also an appeal for a permit. I would have to disagree. The appeal statement is on the screen in front of you. They only appealed the cease and desist notice as stated in this appeal statement.
Thank you. Okay, Alana, you had your hand up.
Thanks. I have a question, a comment, and a point of information. The question goes to Commander Todd, just to clarify. Was the supervisor sent out 2 times or 3 times yesterday?
So there was actually the initial time he was sent out, and then he got back into his car, and then I sent him out while he was still on scene. And then I had another supervisor go out. It would be a second time. So the first supervisor went and addressed them twice while he was there. A second supervisor came back later and addressed them for a third time.
Okay, so 3 calls.
Are you finished, Ms. Faith? Or?
So I have one more comment. When Stephen Decker spoke, I believe that the attorney for the appellant, Mr. Spellacy, was absent. So when Mr. Decker spoke the second time, he didn't identify himself as an attorney for the city, and he explained the ordinances, and Mr. Spellacy rebutted, and I think he rebutted not knowing that Mr. Decker was the attorney for the city. And just finally, a point of information, looking up on decibel levels, the speakers, the JBL 150 watt speakers were stated to emit 88 decibels. And we've had decibel levels come up in previous cases. 85 decibels is considered harmful. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Kevin has his hand up. Kevin?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we, understand everything, that we've already established that there's been, a lot of residents that have called into the police, and that means that we're having to police it. The police aren't decibel or sound engineers, so typically what you and I may think is loud may be different, right? So that's a bit subjective. And that's why this is really taking a step back. That's why we have a codified sound ordinance. It specifies when the businesses and folks can play their sound devices and all we're simply asking is that the Barley House is fine, no issues. All we're simply asking is follow along with what the law, ordinance is prescribing, right? This was an ordinance that took a lot of time to put together. It was very thoughtful. It took into consideration both the businesses and residents. So it's really about just simply complying with, the ordinance. And what we've established is the Barley House use of the speakers has not done that they've gone well beyond the 8 p.m. that's prescribed, that they've played their speakers on Sunday, which is prohibited. And remember, this is not an entertainment. This is a mixed use. Mixed use meaning we've got both residents and businesses. You wouldn't want me as a resident to impact their business. I don't expect their business to impact me. And the way we do that, the way we become good neighbors, is we both comply with the ordinance and things that are set, into motion with the charters and the ordinances. So thank you.
Thank you very much. There's somebody else, Maurice, that had their hand up? I don't even have Maurice.
Madam Chair, we did have a Dorothy Todd that stated that she would like to speak. And did we hear from Lori?
That's me. I'm Commander Todd.
That's Commander Todd.
Thank you. And then Jill. I did not catch Jill's name. Have we heard from Jill yet?
Yes, we did hear from Jill.
Yes, I was the one who called in. This is Jill Noble. You did hear from me.
Okay.
Did we ask license and assessment to answer the question as to the procedures that were undertaken in this particular incident, as to whether or not there was any actions that might be judged arbitrary on their part, or is this something? Is there a standard procedure in terms of dealing with such issues as noise complaints, and is this one of the ways the procedure works?
LaRonda, are you still on the?
Yes, ma'am. LaRonda Talton, Assessments and Licenses. When we first started receiving the complaints, we did go out and we witnessed the noise for ourselves. And then we subsequently issued the cease and desist notice. So it wasn't just on the word of the neighbors alone. My investigators witnessed the speakers being played at high levels on the various days that we went out.
Thank you.
And I'd like to make one more point. Codified Ordinance Chapter 683.08 states that no device shall be operated with a power output in excess of 20 watts. So 20 watts is the max for each sound device. The Control 28 speakers, in which the Barley House submitted an application for, their paperwork states that the power capacity is 175 watts. So that's 175 watts per speaker.
Whoa.
Let me ask another follow-up question.
Go ahead, Tim.
In terms of remedy, because we've heard that, for instance, we had a police officer go out there. He judged that they were too loud. He gave a citation, was following up a citation. Ultimately, the people that were running the Barley House said, almost like, too bad, we're going to keep playing them. Is there a remedy in the process and procedure to basically take away the speakers so that they can't be played?
This is Commissioner Stevens.
Good morning.
Good morning. The taking away of the speakers assumes that they're lawfully placed to begin with, and that's not what we have here.
What does that mean in terms of the question I just asked? Does that mean since they're unlawfully placed?
Meaning that they had a permit for the speakers.
Right, so they don't have that. We know that already. But I mean, if you go out there tonight, the speakers might be playing and they might be at full volume.
I don't understand the question, sir.
you've given a citation, they're obviously arguing that it's arbitrary, capricious to us. So depending on our ruling, you could have a ruling that agrees with the fact that they were given a citation, they're arbitrary, capricious, they're unlawful. What does that mean to the presence of the speakers? Tonight at 8:30, is it going to be business as usual? Where's the enforcement? How do you enforce?
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Spellacy had his hand raised. Mr. Stevens has his hand raised.
Well, I want to hear the answer to the question.
So does Mr. Decker.
Commissioner Stevens, and so we would have to, depending on this, whatever circumstance that happens, work hand in hand with our Commander Todd on what is the best way to address the issue that we have in front of us, like we have been doing in the past.
But you don't have the answer. I think that Tim wanted to know, do you have authority to take those down? Am I overstating the case, Tim? I don't want to put words in your...
Especially if it's an habitual use. I mean,
Mr. Decker, can you let us know legally the answer to that question?
This is Commander Todd. I can answer that if you'd like.
I can answer.
Yes, please.
Go ahead, Commander.
Yes, we have the right to take the speakers as law enforcement officers. We have the right to confiscate the music that's playing at that volume. So it's the same with a house. If it was a house speaker, we have the right to do that as part of that. But that's the last thing my officers want to do. But we do have that right. Yes.
And if I could, Stephen Decker, Division of License and Assessment, if I could elaborate, there is a section within 683 which addresses penalties. And basically, an organization that violates any provision of Section 683 shall be guilty of a 4th-degree misdemeanor upon the first offense. There's a $2,000 fine, which shall not be suspended, waived, or otherwise reduced. And Commander Todd is correct. Under certain violations of Section 683, they are able to seize that equipment.
Thank you. Whoa. Okay, and you said Mr. Spellacy had his hand up, Maurice?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Spellacy?
First of all, I have the manager sitting next to me who was present yesterday, and the account of the events I'd like to clarify because he was actually present and it's not third hand, So maybe you could tell us what happened yesterday. State your name for the record.
Joe Orbeck. There were some complaints according to
Joe, are you sworn in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the sergeants arrived, pretty much, walked up, asked us to see our permits. Somebody on this call said that he sent her a photo. That was like a side patio permit, but it's not for the speakers. And we made it clear that we applied for the speakers and we got denied. He asked us to turn the music off and down, and we did. And they came back later, about, I would say, maybe an hour and a half. It was a different gentleman. It was a different sergeant. And he just said that he walked into a bunch of complaints on us and the music was off when he arrived and he left, and that was pretty much it.
So, Commander Todd, that seems to contradict the testimony you supplied.
Yes, I reviewed the body camera footage. My sergeant who initially went the first time, he had 2 encounters. The first one, I believe, is with the gentleman present. The second one was with Bobby George, and then Corey May was the second encounter. The third encounter was with was my other sergeant who responded for the third time. So they never at any point during the conversation, I reviewed all the body camera footage. They never expressed that they had applied for a permit and it had been denied. They said that they had a permit to play the music and didn't understand where the question was.
Thank you, Commander.
Mr. Horvath, do you want to rescind some of your testimony based on that?
No, honestly, I could have swore I'd mentioned to the very first lieutenant that we applied for it and didn't get it.
Because remember,
But
when
not that.
I asked you to do
we
that
don't-
thing with I do, that's
I did say
swearing
that.
that you're going to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
He's aware of that, okay?
Yeah, I understand, sir. No, I'm not making that up, and we don't have the license anyways. But I did bring it up to the. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's from my understanding, I did bring it up to him.
It all depends when their cameras are on and when they're off as well.
His camera was on from the time I talked to him to drive there until the time he left the premises.
We'll have to see him.
And there was also several other officers in the area as well. So it could have been a different officer, but from my understanding, that's what I was describing to I believe it was the sergeant when he arrived.
And the other thing is, it relates to the misdemeanor. That's a conviction in court. In order to be convicted of a misdemeanor of the 4th degree, it'd have to be before a judge or a jury.
Alana, you have your hand up?
Be happy to do it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is directed to the manager that was on duty yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
If in fact you knew you didn't have an approved
license
permit for the speakers, why, after the first visit by the police officer, were they not turned off? You're operating them without a permit. You just admitted you knowingly knew that you didn't have a permit, and yet you continued to use them, and it required 3 officers to respond. So why were they not turned off after the first call?
I didn't believe that we needed it. We've been doing business as usual.
But you admit that you don't have a permit. Is that correct?
We don't believe it applies. We've already stated that.
Okay. Kevin had his hand up again. Something new, Kevin, to add?
Just want to make sure that we stay, and I keep repeating myself, and I apologize, but it's really just about, we just want everybody to comply to the law. And, we're not asking for the inside speakers because that's their inside. We're just saying, if you're going to put external speakers on, please, we have the charter, 683, that there is the ability to have speakers, just comply to that. And you can see from the hundreds of, I know it's hundreds, but there's been, this keeps happening over and over again. Police officers have to be sent out, turn down it. And then what you're hearing the testimony of has been repeated over 4 years. So
thank you very much, Kevin.
Madam Chair, we do have Mr. Stevens with his hand raised again. I don't know if he had another comment.
Edric?
Yes. Yes. At 10:24 a.m., Councilman McCormick emailed Ms. Kukla. Councilman McCormick couldn't join us. He's currently in the Health and Human Service Committee. And in the email, I'm reading verbatim, it says, I do not, all caps, support the requested variance for permission for outdoor speakers. They are a clear nuisance and problem for the neighborhood. And he wanted me to read that into the file.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Any other comments, board?
Madam Chair, this is Lynn.
Yes. Go ahead, Ms. Grace.
On that, with that comment, again, we're just looking at the cease and desist order. The permit was not made part of this appeal. It would have to be a separate appeal to us. I guess for clarification, has the appeal been denied? And then in that case, can the applicant apply again with speakers that have lesser decibels or maybe less speakers? I mean, do they have the opportunity to apply again for this permit? Of course, it is a separate issue. We are just looking at the cease and desist order today.
Right. Let's just deal with what we have in front of us today.
I would ask the appellant if they have one last argument that argues that this action was arbitrary or capricious on the city's behalf.
Okay, doesn't sound like Does anybody?
Spellacy, I think this is one to you.
They just selectively enforce, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What? That sounds like some music.
Oh. All right, it's got a musical answer.
All right, if there's no other comments, questions, entertain a motion.
Madam
Ms.
Chair,
Faith?
I just have a final comment. Thank you. Mr. Spellacy stated several times that he and his clients had tried several times to contact the commander, to engage with the neighborhood association, and to be good neighbors. I find that the recent events of yesterday requiring 3 supervisor officers to respond to the Barley House is a clear indication that they are not trying to be good neighbors, and they're not trying to be compliant with their permits or lack thereof. And so I would urge them to, if they want to be good neighbors, they need to change their behavior and become compliant. That's all I have. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, given the testimony presented today, I would note that the city was not arbitrary or capricious in its actions. In fact, in some cases, they are probably long overdue. I think, though, that there is a remedy to be had, but it's a remedy that will take a commitment on the part of the bar owner establishment there to deal with the rules of the road. Because there are rules of the road. At 8 o'clock, you're not supposed to have any more music. Prior to that, when music's played, it's supposed to be at a certain decibel level. And you need a permit for your speakers even to be out in the patio area. So if they want to follow those rules, I think they'll find that the neighborhood probably will work with them and they'll get rid of this as an issue they have to deal with on an ongoing basis. But remember, it's an issue you create yourself. The city's not creating this issue. But then again, I do not find the city to be arbitrary or capricious, and would say so in my motion.
Do I have a second?
This is Kelly, I second.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Calendar 20-119 is denied. The decision of assessments and licenses upheld. And we will send you a letter when this case is ratified on September 14th.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
We have old business? Yes, we have old business. 2, 3, 4, 6.
So they're gonna pull you out those speakers.
Without objection.
Hello? 2, 3, 4, and 6 without objection?
Without objection.
This is Kelly without objection.
This is Alana without objection.
And Carol without objection. Okay. We have anything else to discuss?
Nope, nothing else.
Then have a wonderful 2 weeks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. See you on the, 14th?
Yes.
14th.
You want everyone have a
Thank
good
you.
Labor Day.
BZA vacation.
Yes.
Yes.
Take care. All. Stay well.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
You too. Good to see everyone.
Glad we got your sound worked out, Alana.
Yes, me too.